What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark, MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. And, yeah, I'm a blind film. I'm not this guy. This is uh, kind of like a weird bane on our existence, but he's got a new show, and I wanted to go back to where it all began. The 2003 film Daredevil. So click like and subscribe because we're going to talk about this movie because Daredevil is born again. And I decided to go all the way back. Not to the Netflix show, but to the Ben Affleck movie. Like and subscribe because I'm a blind film critic and I talk a lot about audio description and accessibility, which this movie does have on Disney Plus, and I want to continue to expand it. But the problem is that now everybody's turned DEI into the villain, and DEI programs, diversity, equity, inclusivity programs, are largely the programs that help people with accessibility and figure out how to bring more people in through accessibility. And now that those programs are considered to be, I don't know, like the deep state, I'm finding a hard time finding people to talk to about audio description and accessibility. So the only way I can now do it is through begging people and influencing. And if you don't do it, I'm gonna have to start doing weird TikTok challenges, like I don't know, slapping people in the face in a parking lot and running away. And what are kids doing? I don't know what they're doing on TikTok anymore. But um, that's the future of my channel. Daredevil. Ben Affleck plays Matt Murdock. Jennifer Garner is Elektra. We've got Colin Farrell as Bullseye. He's actually pretty good as Bullseye, by the way. I like his intensity. Michael Clark Duncan is Kingpin. I actually like him as Kingpin. He has the deep voice that, oh my God. Hello, sir. I'm Michael Clark Duncan. I'm the Kingpin. Yes, you are. um, who else? John Favreau, Ellen Pompeo, Joe Pantoliano. There's a couple other people that are in this. Mark Steven Johnson directed this. There is a R-rated director's cut, which is funny because it's the one I own on DVD. Guess what? It doesn't have audio description. Um, so I'm not even. Yeah, this is what I found. I didn't do a deep dive of Disney to see if they have the director's cut on there and whether or not it has audio description. The director's cut is better, by the way. It includes a whole subplot with like Busta Rhymes that doesn't even exist. Like there's actually, you get to see Daredevil doing law, like actually practicing law, which is really interesting. Like there's a whole crime syndicate thing that's happening throughout the movie that they totally removed. It's a little bit more violent, it's a little bit more aggressive. So, it's a little bit longer, and yeah, I didn't hate the movie when this came out. I felt like everybody else told me I'm not supposed to like this movie, and I was like, but I didn't hate it. It's not the best one. It's not my favorite comic book movie, but I'm not gonna throw a Razzie at it, you know? That's kind of how I felt. It's like we're okay. This is a fine watch. And then I saw the director's cut and I was like, oh, this is a little bit better. You know, that's smart. I've seen Daredevil a couple times. Not a ton. Don't worry, I'm not taking this to a desert island. This isn't like In Defense of Daredevil. It's actually the best movie ever made. This isn't that, but this is an audio description track that's done by Audio Eyes, but this is an audio description track that's done by Audio Eyes before they were called Audio Eyes. They're called something else, and it's funny because they have a phone number that they give out at the end. They're like, if you have any questions, please call 1-866 blah 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 blah. And I'm like, can I call you? Is this the would this still go through? Because it's written by Micah Grossman, who I think I gave a ton of shit this year for what did he do? In a Violent Nature? I think Micah did In a Violent Nature. Somebody did In a Violent Nature and got an earful from me. And Rick Boggs is the narrator. So It's fine. Like the audio description here is fine. I didn't have any problems with it considering I've seen this movie before. And it's kind of important to have good audio description on a movie where you're trying to capitalize on my disability. So I'm a little bit more critical of, all right, what are you doing? What's he, but honestly looking back on Daredevil and it's like, this is not real blindness. This is like dream world. And this is how some people think I live. Like they think they're like, oh, are all your senses heightened? Can you, can you, yes, it's like Daredevil. Have you seen Daredevil? Because that's exactly what it is for me. I see, it's like I have this like weird sonar superpower now where I can see things and move like a ninja. And even though I never trained in martial arts or combat skills, I'm actually very adept now. I gained that as well. I am Daredevil. That's who I am. So inevitably, when you're blind, Daredevil comes up in a conversation at some point. I've learned that. Oh, have you seen Daredevil? Do you know Daredevil? Uh, oh, like Daredevil. it's, it's like the education that we have in America around blindness is so poor that when you talk about blindness, most people just think of Daredevil. They can't think of anyone else. Not Ray Charles, not Stevie Wonder, not, you know what I'm saying? Not Helen Keller, not, nope, Daredevil. So, Matt Murdock, this is his origin story. We get to see him as a little kid and how he becomes Daredevil, how he loses his sight with this weird chemical spill, and his dad's a fighter, and his dad is suggested to try to take a dive one night, and he doesn't, and then his dad's killed, and he's left to sort of fight for himself, and he learns how to do everything his own way and navigate his own powers, and then he grows up, and we see him as an adult, and he's a lawyer. Great. And he's got Foggy, Jon Favreau is his law partner, and they're handling cases. Karen, who has a much bigger part in the TV series, is played here by Ellen Pompeo, who has very negligible role because they can only handle one female character at a time. And we also have Elektra, played by Jennifer Garner, so she can go into her own spin-off movie after this. And Elektra has a ton of time, and Daredevil Matt thinks some of the crime might be her, but he's also aware that there's a kingpin. But is she part of that kingpin crime syndicate? There's an interesting sort of play through there, and then Bullseye comes in out of nowhere, and he's a villain. So this is one of those double villain movies. Plus also double heroes though, because like Elektra is also there to fight. She's there to get vengeance against Kingpin. So when Daredevil realizes that, then it's like a team up. But Kingpin, played by Michael Clark Duncan, is basically running the city. Michael Clark Duncan makes more sense as Kingpin, but I will say that having seen Vincent D'Onofrio in like long form, when you give him a lot to do in the range of character that he had throughout the Netflix series, and a little bit of Echo and Hawkeye as well, he handles more of the rangy stuff. He just isn't as an imposing character as Michael Clark Duncan is, and he doesn't have a voice. He's trying to do a voice. He's trying to, he's trying to put some grit in there because he doesn't. Michael Clark Duncan was just born with one of those voices, man. It's just like, I am the Kingpin. I mean, he could be anybody he wants to be, and you just be like, yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are. You know, you are My Little Pony. You are what I believe. Whatever you say is that you think I believe you. Please don't yell at me. So, rest in peace, Michael Clark Duncan. But so yeah, I think there are elements here that work, and they work better if you've seen the director's cut. If you're seeing this version, yeah, it's okay. I think this movie is lamented way more than it needs to be. The action sequences are kind of fun. Some of the dialogue is kind of There's some dialogue here that you're like, oh, damn it. We also used to do comic book movies totally different back in this time period. Just like the 90s comic book movies, like the Batman movies feel totally different than once we got into like X-Men, Spider-Man, and then Daredevil. Like those movies kind of set like a different tone. Uh, but you can feel them sort of transitioning away from this like the Batman movies, which kind of bled into Spawn slash Blade, which then begat the Spider-Man on, X-Men, Spider-Man movies, and Daredevil and Fantastic Four in those 90s movies. And you can even see that in the Blade movies. Blade Trinity, Blade 2 is transitional. Guillermo del Toro came in there and he was like, listen, I got this. And, but Blade Trinity very much feels like we've transitioned as a franchise from the 90s to the 2000s. So it's stylistically way different. So, yeah, it fits the time period. I like Daredevil more than Elektra. I think Elektra's a slog of a movie to get through. I like Jennifer Garner as Elektra. I think she's fine. We know she can kick ass because she's doing it on Alias during this time period. So she's totally viable in this role. Ben Affleck, this is still, he hasn't quite gotten to the I know how to act phase yet, where the roles connect to him. So he's still kind of like, eh. Honestly, Ben Affleck started out as having a few roles that were being thrown at him where he had the opportunity to act, but he was also young at the time. So he was in stuff like Dazed and Confused, and he was in School Ties and a couple things when he was young. And of course, he's getting Good Will Hunting because that was who he was. And then, but everything else sort of around that time period is just kind of like, eh, from him. He was just sort of like pretty, and he's going to be our next male lead. Like he's really not the best Jack Bryan in Sum of All Fears compared to everybody else that we have. So it's not really until he gets offered Hollywood land that you start seeing those glimmers of, oh my God, can Ben Affleck act? He can. Look at that. And then later on, more and more roles, The Town, and so on and so forth, and Argo. Yeah, I mean, he's gotten way better as an actor. Air, now it's getting to the point where you can say Ben Affleck might get an Oscar nomination for acting, and people aren't like, you're insane. Gone Girl, he has a couple roles behind him, so this is not that. This is Ben Affleck struggling. This is like Reindeer Games Ben Affleck. So that's one of the things that kind of holds the movie back, is he's actually the weakest element of the movie, but he's also the lead. So of the people in this movie that I would recast, he would be the first one. I need a stronger Daredevil. Charlie Cox proves that you need a stronger Daredevil. He's a better actor, and he does a lot more with the material. So I almost think the perfect Daredevil franchise is a hybrid of the franchises, because Vincent D'Onofrio needs Michael Clark Duncan's like instantaneously foreboding presence and voice, which is what he's trying to replicate, but he has the acting down. Bullseye is actually, Colin Farrell is nuts here. And you feel it. Like there's an intensity in Colin Farrell that you feel like if you were to take a feral cat and bring it inside your house, I don't know if anybody's ever done that before, but it just starts tearing things up. It's like that. Like he feels like that. He feels like at any moment he's just gonna rip off his own skin, and then just it's a very unhinged performance from him that's very underrated. I don't know what people's expectation of Bullseye was, but he feels constantly like he's gonna cut somebody for real. Like he took the real weapon, not the fake one. you know? I wouldn't trust him at all in this movie. you know, Colin Farrell's Bullseye is just he really made me believe he's absolutely crazy. So I kind of like this movie. The audio description's fine. Yeah, it's good. It's not balanced well. That's the only thing I would say, is that it feels like it's obviously an older audio track because the name of the company has changed, but and now Rick does a lot with Sean. I think is his kid. So yeah, it's obviously an older track, but it's just not balanced well on Disney Plus. It's a little bit below what it needs to be, so it's a little bit hard to hear during some of the heavier action sequences. Such is life. Such is life. I also have it the other way sometimes where the audio description is screaming at me way above the movie. And it's like, which one would I rather have? Honestly, I would rather have this one. I'd rather have the slightly harder to hear because I can control the volume a little bit better that way. The other one is kind of obnoxious because then you keep feeling, because you feel like you have to turn up your TV or whatever to match the sound of the movie because that's the thing that is always going, and the audio description comes in and out. So it comes in and out, and then somebody's shouting at you all of a sudden, especially with quiet movies. If you get a track that isn't balanced on something like Nomadland, and you're like, and people are already sort of like whispering, man, you gotta turn that movie up. And then the audio description is like, hello, Francis McDormand. So, um, Daredevil. I'm giving it a B. That's where I feel like it lands. I don't hate this movie. I also don't hate Fantastic Four. I didn't hate the comic book movies of the 2000s. I look back on them sort of with a lot of nostalgic purposes. They got us to where we are today. Like, comic book movies got better. But there were worse movies, and most people don't talk about them. They don't talk about that, like, original Fantastic Four movie or the original Captain America movie. Those are the movies we don't talk about, Bruno. No, no, no. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Inclusivity is not a bad word. I'll see you guys on the other side.